Good Friday morning. It's October 23rd, 2020. I'm Guy McPherson of GuyMcPherson.com, otherwise known as Nature Bites Last. I'm going to provide a few headlines dating back to Wednesday after the market closed through this morning, and then an indication of where the stock markets are headed at the open in the United States. So, from Axios yesterday, every piece of data shows the COVID-19 pandemic is getting worse. Well, imagine that. Since the Western world has done very little right in light of a pandemic, I'm not too surprised. From CNN a couple of days ago, doctors say this will be the worst surge yet. From treatments to testing to PPE, is the U.S. better at handling COVID-19 now? I have a one-word answer for you. No. The United States is not better at handling COVID-19 because the United States government never took it seriously. So, yes, this will be the worst surge. As I've been pointing out for months, the third wave is always worse than the second, which is always worse than the first. And that's been the case. More cases in the second wave than in the first with the COVID-19 pandemic. More bad news from CBS News. Workers are being laid off twice as COVID ripples through the economy. Not just once, hire them back, second wave comes along, third wave comes along, they're getting fired again. From the Wall Street Journal, elevated jobless claims reflect cooling labor market. Yeah, I'd say, one of the outcomes of a pandemic for those paying attention. From CNN Business, American Airlines and Southwest trim losses, but still lose billions of dollars. And this is what passes for good news. Here's the subhead. American Airlines and Southwest Airlines both reported billions of dollars in losses Thursday. But that's what passes for an improvement in the battered industry these days. Trying to dredge up hope anywhere you can find it. From the Wall Street Journal, new U.S. coronavirus cases passed 60,000 for a second day. And the subhead is more than 62,000 daily infections bring the total reported in the country to more than 8.33 million. That's 8.33 million people who have been diagnosed with the coronavirus. This according to Johns Hopkins University, a reliable source. U.S. jobless claims fell to 787,000 last week. That's from the Wall Street Journal. From CNN, the U.S. topped 1,000 daily COVID-19 deaths. That's more than 1,000 dead people as a result of the coronavirus. And experts worry the worst of the fall surge is yet to come. Yes, it is. In fact, to indicate that the headline is filled with hope and misinformation, the subhead is the U.S. reported more than 1,100 new COVID-19 deaths on Wednesday, the highest daily toll recorded in more than a month. You might count that more than a month, going back to the second wave. From CNN Business, and I indicated, I think it was in Monday's video, that mortgage rates had fallen for the 10th time this year. But from CNN Business, mortgage rates fall to a record low for the 11th time this year. We're not even 10 months into the year, and there have been 11 declines in mortgage rates because the Federal Reserve is trying hard to pump any form of money, fake or otherwise, into the economy and keep the wheels greased for industrial civilization. And from the best news you're likely to read or hear about today, this from Geophysical Research Letters about a week ago, minimal climate impacts from short-lived climate forcers following emission reductions related to COVID-19 pandemic. And specifically, this paper by Weber and colleagues goes into great detail to demonstrate that the aerosol masking effect is minor. On the other hand, the paper fails to cite Levy and colleagues from 2013, and more importantly, the paper by Rosenfeld and colleagues in Science So this paper does not quote the recent paper that was in Science, the leading publication, if you're interested in actual evidence. So I'm going to take this with a large grain of salt, maybe even a block. And from the news is worse than you could imagine category, from The Guardian of all places, which regularly provides disinformation and misinformation about climate change. Alarm as Arctic sea ice not yet freezing at latest date on record. That's right, the refreeze season, which typically begins coincident with the autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere, has us well beyond that point. That was in more than a month ago, and here we are in late October, and the refreeze has not yet begun. So even if the aerosol masking effect is something that I made up, and it's not, by the way, then loss of Arctic ice will still lead to the loss of all life on Earth, according to the paper by Strone and Bradshaw, and the likely impacts of the loss of Arctic ice. So there you have it. A whole lot of bad news, a little tiny bit of good news that I'm taking with a block of salt, and even more bad news. So if you wanted some bad news to start your day, you've come to the right place. But I point out yet again, it's another Friday, another day upright, another weekend that we're all going to make it through, it seems. So that's good news. See, I'm Mr. Optimistic. Oh, and there's more. It's not just me being the optimistic one. Look at this guy. Notice he hasn't said a single bad thing yet. So I think he's showing remarkable restraint. And to clarify, that November 2018 article in Scientific Reports by Strone and Bradshaw did not address Arctic ice per se. However, any reasonable projection regarding the near-term rates of change associated with loss of Arctic sea ice indicates that factor and all that it drives will cause the extinction of humans and all other life on Earth. All right. Finally, as the markets open this morning, it's of course all up. The Dow Jones up about 50, the NASDAQ 15, the S&P 500 about 10. Apparently, the stock traders are looking only at the press release from the paper and geophysical research letters, indicating that global dimming is not much to worry about. That's all they're paying attention to. They're paying no attention to every other single bad news factor. They're paying no attention even to this character. And can you blame them? Let's just wave. Third wave, here we go.